And I helped make that famous as the first conservative radio host to attack the RINOs and to attack the establishment. And I still do. Republican in name only, RINO, was intended to mean that the Republicans in Congress, the Republicans that control their party, are not conservatives. They're RINOs, Republicans in name only. What would you call a Republican who signs on to a 3-month continuing resolution that pushes the deficit, the fiscal operating debt over $20 trillion for the first time in American history? What would you call a Republican who keeps promoting a $1 trillion infrastructure program and did so again today? What would you call a Republican who uses the class warfare of the left and talks about taxing the rich? What would you call a Republican who sounds like Jeb Bush now when it comes to immigration and DACA? You would call them a Republican in name only, right? A RINO. Well, the President of the United States is apparently a RINO. It's not hard to be a RINO. Now you can have a RINO who's part of the establishment, like McConnell and Ryan, and you can have a RINO who throws in with the left, like the President, more and more. And so I'm sorry to say, but the President of the United States is a Republican in name only. He's a RINO. How else do you explain this? Now, what am I talking about? Well, this class warfare stuff, which is part of the progressive movement, part of the national populist movement, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But CNBC report 20% of Americans could pay higher taxes under Trump's plan. 20% of Americans. If Trump sticks to the proposals he's laid out on tax reform, the upper middle class, those in the 80th through 95th percentiles of wealth, and by the way, that's many of you. It may sound like a high number. It's not so high. Bear with me. Will likely end up paying the most, the Wall Street Journal reports. And overall, about 20% of taxpayers will pay more. Now, all I know is I lived during the Reagan era. We had the greatest tax cuts in American history. The president has said his tax cuts will be the greatest in American history. We now know that that's false, like some of his other promises. It's simply false. It will not be. And in good measure, he's brought in Pelosi and Schumer to help him formulate a tax cut that he believes can get through Congress. I don't remember Reagan bringing in Tip O'Neill or Mike Mansfield or any of these Democrats. Quite the contrary. Brought in some of the moderates, and he went over the heads of the radical socialists, and he rammed it home. Now, this is according to a study by the Tax Policy Center, which analyzed the implications of what we know so far about the Trump tax plan. And the Tax Policy Center found that households earning between $149,400 and $307,900 are most likely to see the greatest increases in taxes. Of the 19 million households that make up that income bracket, about one-third would be affected. $149,400. So, let's say you're a two-parent family, or let's put it this way, a two-income family, made up of a teacher and a firefighter, or maybe a police officer and a teacher. You're now among the filthy rich, and your taxes will go up. Your taxes will go up. There's a number of reasons that those earning between $150,000 and $300,000 are likely to be hit the hardest. As the Wall Street Journal reports, compared with the working poor, they have more ability to pay higher taxes. Compared with the highest earners, they often derive a large chunk of their tax benefits from a host of deductions and exclusions that could be cut back. Additionally, unlike those in the top 5%, those in this income bracket won't be able to reap additional benefits from favorable rates on investment income such as long-term capital gains. Wow, who knew? Sounds like a RINO to me. Then the president today. This is Reuters. President Donald Trump said that under his tax reform plan, wealthy Americans would not gain and might have to pay higher taxes. I don't know who he means by wealthy Americans. Who's that? And what's with all this socialist propaganda? The rich, the poor, the middle class. Why not slash taxes across the board? Why do we talk like liberals? Well, we don't. Why must he and Republicans talk like liberals? About classes of people. We're individuals of people. And by the way, a lot of these so-called rich are small businesses that file as individual taxpayers. Small businesses aren't all incorporated. They're not all LLCs. They're not all this, that, or the other. Most of them are proprietary, sole proprietorships. Somebody owns a gas station, a grocery store, or whatever. And they kick into these brackets like they're rich, and then they get whacked. You want cuts across the board. Meaning with a bipartisan group of lawmakers at the White House, Trump said his main goal is to cut taxes for the middle class and cut corporate taxes to enhance job growth. The rich will not be gaining at all with this plan. So he embraces the propaganda of the left rather than talking about the American people, talking about free enterprise, talking about slashing taxes across the board. Again, we point to Reagan, who slashed taxes more than any president in history, and the benefit was enormous. Enormous. For all people. 25 million jobs created, not only in his 8 years, but through the presidency, the one-term presidency of George H.W. Bush, and through the 2 terms of Clinton. Massive wealth creation. Massive business creation. We never saw anything like it. Ever. And he didn't talk like the left. The rich will not be gaining at all with this plan. We're looking for the middle class, and we're looking for jobs, jobs being the economy. So we're looking at the middle class, and we're looking at jobs. I think the wealthy will pretty much be where they are, pretty much where they are. If they have to go higher, they'll go higher, quote unquote. Tax the rich. Another $1 trillion in debt on infrastructure. A 3-month deal with the Democrats that funds Planned Parenthood and every other big spending program and pushes the debt, the fiscal operating debt, over $20 trillion without any effort to advance any part of his agenda like the wall, which he said he would, or even more importantly, to address the issue of the debt, forcing them to put in place some kind of even gradual mechanism to start to address the debt. None of that. And he wants to negotiate with the Democrats, forever removing the debt ceiling issue, so that they never have to be accountable for, vote for the debt ceiling increase, which means, ladies and gentlemen, there'll be absolutely no way to even control under the debt ceiling, not only spending and borrowing and taxing, but accountability. And the President of the United States says he wants to get rid of that. Now, what's interesting is we have people who are complaining about the people who are around the president, liberal Democrats, many from New York and so forth, and they're right in many cases. But many of the same people complaining about the staff are defending his decisions. It's a very strange thing that we're watching, almost a spectacle. Attack the staff, but defend the man. Defend the man who has the final decision-making authority, who knows what he wants to do, but attack the staff and blame it on them. No, I don't think so. You know, if Mitch McConnell were meeting tonight and having dinner with Nancy Pelosi and Schumer to cut a deal, you and I would be furious about that. The President of the United States is meeting with Chuck Schumer. He has a renewed friendship with the man and Nancy Pelosi for dinner tonight to discuss all these issues. Let me also say this. Nixonian politics, which is politics that is not based on any particular principles, that's not new. That's not a new force in governing. That's not a new political force. That's not a force that's changing American politics and changing the two-party system. No. That's Nixonian politics. And in the end, government gets much bigger. There'll be more departments, more agencies, more programs, massively more debt. There'll be more of the liberal agenda items advanced. And the Republican Party in the end will be weaker, as opposed to more conservative. You can follow the Nixonian path, which is what's happening right now, or he can follow the Reagan path. The Nixonian path is a very bad path, and it didn't save Nixon. And it won't save Trump. Certainly not from the Democrats who hate his guts, who are smiling. They'll eat his food. They'll go to his photo ops. They'll take every ounce of credibility they can from the man. And then if they take the House, you'll see what happens. He better pray they don't take the House. And yet he's making it more difficult to stop them. Heitkamp, a Democrat in North Dakota who's in deep trouble. He calls her on the stage yesterday and calls her a great lady. She will use that in her campaign. Calling in vulnerable Democrats to pressure them to go along with you may or may not be a good policy strategy. I don't think it's particularly good. But that said, helps to get these people reelected. The same people who blocked the repeal of Obamacare. The same people who are trying to block our judges. The same people who are trying to block the wall on the southern border. It's not a good mid or long-term strategy. It's just not. Changing the Republican Party. That's the strategy. It's hard work. But when you bring in Reince Priebus, nah, that doesn't fly. That doesn't fly at all. So, there are a lot of cowards in TV and radio, ladies and gentlemen. They will now attack McConnell and Ryan, and 6 months ago they wouldn't even do that. But they will not speak the truth about what's going on in and around the White House and within the Republican Party. They won't do it. They're afraid to lose ratings. They're afraid of their corporate masters. They're just afraid. Which is why they're not terribly conservative or principled, I might say. Now, the left will cherry-pick what I'm saying and run with headlines. Levin calls Trump a RINO. I want you to understand the full context. A Republican in name only. I would think that the President of the United States would agree with me. I would think his most ardent and famous surrogates on TV, on radio, on the Internet would agree with me that he's not so much a Republican. In fact, they would tell you he's not so much a conservative. He's going a third way, don't you know? They're trying to redefine this third way, but we've seen this third way before. It's called Nixon. I'll be right back. Well, he should be under attack, but how does his position differ than Donald Trump's? Donald Trump says he's not deporting these people. He loves them. This is what I mean, the schizophrenia. So Paul Ryan's under attack for taking what is essentially the same position as the president. There's no light between them. But it doesn't even matter what Paul Ryan says. You know who's in charge of the executive branch? Right, the president. And if the president wanted to round up the dreamers, quote unquote, and deport them, he could do it starting tonight. Paul Ryan can't do a damn thing. President of the United States can do it right this minute. Right this minute. So it's odd. So you have the same people who are attacking Paul Ryan who are not attacking Donald Trump. Why is that? On this issue. It's a cult issue. It has to be. I can't figure out any other reason. Can you? All right, I want to get into something else here. The Democrats are starting their big push for single payer. Now, this word, this phrase, single payer, you know, it's so sterile. It's so new. Oh, single payer. Oh, I only have to pay once? Oh, that's good. No. This is the nationalization of health care. So it's to nationalize what is in effect taking place at the Veterans Administration, which means some people like it, some people don't, but a lot of people suffer from it. And it's not like the world doesn't have experience with nationalized health care, everywhere from communist regimes to socialist regimes. And it sucks. It stinks. Nonetheless, Bernie Sanders is a Marxist, despite his best efforts to conceal it. His history is quite clear, and so are his policies. And he's leading the Democrat Party on the issue of health care. While all Democrats aren't following him, this is the push, and he's getting momentum. for national health care. And you'll also hear the class warfare that he uses, because this is popular in both parties, apparently. You know, the rich and the poor and the middle class. And, of course, when you hear people speak like this, you know who gets screwed, right? You do. You do. Let's start with Cut 2, Bernie Sanders unveiling the Medicare for All Act today. And, by the way, as I've told you many times, the Medicare trustees have said that program will be broke in about 15 years. So Bernie Sanders says, okay, then everyone should have it, and it'll go broke faster. Cut 2, go.
Today, all of us stand before you and proudly proclaim our belief that health care in America must be a right, not a privilege. Today, we begin...
Stop right there. What does that mean? We've talked about this many times, too. What does that mean? Health care must be a right, not a privilege. Let me try it again. The Veterans Administration is controlled 100% by the federal government. Not the state governments, not the private sector, not the big insurance companies, not big pharma. It's controlled by the federal government. Now, can anybody who's a vet get care immediately as needed? Not necessarily. Can they get whatever surgery they need immediately as needed? Not necessarily. Can they see the doctor they want immediately as needed? No, not necessarily. Can they easily change hospitals that they might want to go to? No, not necessarily. Can they get access to the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that they may need immediately? No, not necessarily. And haven't many people died as a result of the failures of the Veterans Administration? Yes, they have. So when Bernie Sanders says health care is a right, we have a government-run program called the Veterans Administration. And clearly, he is a Class A liar. Because call it whatever you want. Call it a kumquat. The fact of the matter is, what does it mean that you have a right? If the federal government's Veterans Administration makes decisions every day about life and death, health and illness, who sees whom, who gets what, when it comes to things like health care or anything that involves human interaction, the provision of products and services and material and so forth, you don't have a right. What does that mean, you have a right? You have a right to see a doctor anytime you want? That means every doctor has to be at your beck and call, 3 in the morning on Sundays? Nurses, too? Facilities have to be responsive to your every need? Well, that's what a right is. And yet it sounds so compassionate, doesn't it? Tell me, the National Health Service in Britain, you heard the long waiting lines. You heard the same thing about Canada and France and so forth in the montage. Don't those people have a right to quality health care? Oh, yes, they have a right, but they can't get it. And this is the problem with these arguments that are focused on centralization in government and not on individualism and competition. This is the problem. And you can see it with Obamacare. You folks have experienced it yourself. You have a right to health care. Isn't that what they told you when they passed Obamacare? You have the right to affordable health care, the right to any doctor you want to see, and the right to have your policies reduced by $2,500 a year. Great. Is that what happened? No, because they lie. Because they lie. And if you read Rediscovering Americanism, you know exactly what I mean on the second part, and the tyranny of progressivism. They put out these freebies, they make the case for radical egalitarianism, and in the end, what is it about? It's about centralized government controlling your lives. It's about centralized government reallocating what become more and more limited resources, less and less access to professionals, and in the end, you get Venezuela. In the end, you get Venezuela. And, of course, Bernie Sanders never tells us how you're going to pay for this. Oh, we'll just get it from the rich. Oh, the rich. Go ahead.
Long and difficult struggle to end the international disgrace of the United States, our great nation, being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all of our people.
First of all, that is a flat-out lie. We do actually guarantee health care to all of our people, including people who aren't our people, like illegal aliens, who may walk into an emergency room. We guarantee health care to all of our people. You can walk into an emergency room, you can't afford it, you get the care. You're too poor, you get Medicaid. You're elderly, you get Medicare. You're a child, they have the Child Insurance Act. How much more can we do? So we do guarantee some level of health care for everybody. And by the way, that's one of the reasons the whole system is sinking. That's one of the reasons it's sinking. But according to Bernie Sanders, unless we're a centralized socialist country or a Marxist country, we're not guaranteeing health care to people. Are they guaranteeing it in North Korea? Are they guaranteeing it in China? I mean, effectively? No. How about Cuba? No. No, of course not. Go ahead.
As proud Americans, our job is to lead the world on health care.
Shut up, you idiot. You Marxist rabble-rouser. Well, not so fast. Cut 3, go.
But to my Republican colleagues, please don't lecture us on health care. In the last few months, you, the Republican Party, have shown the American people what you stand for when you voted for legislation that would throw up to 32 million Americans off of the health insurance.
You know, this lie, this is the other thing the Marxists do. They've obviously learned over a long period of time the effectiveness of the big lie and repeating the big lie. Fascists do it. Communists do it. Leftists do it. They're good at it. 32 million people wouldn't be thrown off of our healthcare system. Tens of millions of people would choose not to be covered under Obamacare. That's their choice. So in other words, we would have gotten rid of the mandate. But they're thrown off our health care. They're thrown off. He's also counting people prospectively. Because, as you know, under Obamacare, it's massively expanded Medicaid, which is already going bankrupt, to well over the poverty level. People earning $80-some thousand a year. Is that the poverty level these days? I don't believe so. So it wouldn't continue to expand, so he counts that too. See, Bernie Sanders and his wife are not very good with numbers. They're not very good with numbers. That's why she's under FBI investigation. Cut 4, go.
Now let us be honest.
Now that is an impossibility for a Marxist. Because you're an ideologue. And as Reagan said, you try to fit your facts into your ideological bottle. And if they don't work, you cut the facts off. Go ahead.
Now let us be honest. The crisis we are discussing today is not really about health care.
By the way, this guy just sounds like an old line Marxist standing on the corner in Brooklyn somewhere at a Nathan's hot dog stand, complaining about the price of hot dogs. That's what he sounds like. Your usual left-wing kook out of New York. Go ahead.
Crisis we are discussing today is a political crisis which speaks to the incredible power of the insurance companies.
Stop right there. The incredible power of the insurance companies, like the oil companies when it comes to the prices, and the automobile companies, and all the companies are out to destroy us. We got to get all the companies. By the way, he has no problem with a centralized governmental monopoly. None whatsoever. Does this propaganda work on you? Does it work on your neighbors? When they set up all these straw men and attack them? When they set up these straw men and attack them, does this stuff work on you? Well, the insurance companies, the drug companies. The government's the biggest ripoff there is. Government's purpose in healthcare is not to provide you with quality healthcare, ladies and gentlemen. They've told us this. Its purpose is to redistribute your wealth through the healthcare system to other people who haven't earned it. And in the process of redistributing wealth, the government acts like the mob. It launders your money. It takes a big chunk of it for itself. Now, how many times are we going to go through this? Isn't Obamacare a perfect example of what the government is incapable of? So we should give them 100% control over health care? And they'll fix it? They lie their way to power? They lie their way to getting approval for their programs, and if they don't get approval for their programs, they ram them through under the cover of darkness? Health care's a right! Health care's a right! So vets, next time you call the VA and ask for an appointment and they say not now in 3 weeks, you tell them it's a right. If they deny you a particular procedure or drug or hearing aids or glasses or shoes or whatever it is, you tell them it's a right. The government runs the Vets Administration, and it's a right, and you want it. And you have every right to it because Bernie Sanders said so. I'll be right back. Do you really know the basics? Look, you can't really celebrate something if you don't know the basics, right? Hillsdale College wants you to know the foundations of your freedoms. So Hillsdale has brought back for a limited time their free online course, Introduction to the Constitution. Now, you can take the course at your own pace, in the comfort of your own home, or with family and friends, even your book club or a small group. Each lesson is under 15 minutes long. And now you can download a free course companion booklet that includes discussion questions for hosting your own Constitution study group. It's all at levinforhillsdale.com, you know. That's Levin for Hillsdale.com. The course and study guide are free, offered as part of Hillsdale's mission to educate Americans nationwide for liberty. Now, once you register, you can watch the lessons anytime you want. So sign up now in honor of the Constitution Day. Pursue truth, defend liberty with Hillsdale College. Sign up while you still can at levinforhillsdale.com. That's Levin for Hillsdale.com. You know what? I'm going to try something here. Mr. Call Screener, I don't know. Do we have a full board? I want you to clear 2 lines, okay? I want liberal Democrats to call in. I want you to call in because I want to make peace with you. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make peace with my liberal Democrat friends. I don't want to defeat them anymore. I don't want victory over them. I don't want to advance the cause of liberty and constitutionalism or unravel this centralized federal leviathan that they've created along with the Republicans. No. I can't get through to Mitch McConnell. I can't get through to Paul Ryan. I can't get through to these Republicans. They won't listen to me. We've spent many years on this, a lot longer than Donald Trump. I know I have. I have gone into the primaries. I have tried to defeat these incumbents, and we still are doing that. I notice others are joining us now. That's a good thing. But look, we're not getting through to McConnell. We're not getting through to Paul Ryan. So I want to hear from you liberal Democrats. Maybe I'll agree with you now. And that'll teach them a lesson. Oh, yeah, that'll teach them a lesson. I'm quite serious. Do we have a couple lines open? 877-381-3811. I have a special line for our liberal callers. 877-381-3811. What is it? 3811. So give us a call. You know what? I'm tired of being principled. I'm tired of standing for liberty. I'm tired of standing for the Constitution. I'll do what the other radio hosts do, what the other TV hosts do. And not only that, maybe I'll claim that conservatism is dead. This is the future. I'm an outsider. You know, I'll do the whole thing. We'll do the whole thing. Meanwhile, let's straighten out a little history. Scott, Richmond, Virginia, Sirius Satellite. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I had more of a question. I heard you earlier cite that Ronald Reagan did not get as cozy with some of his opponents, but as I recall, although it was 30 years ago, I recall Reagan not having a problem working or meeting with Tip O'Neill or working with Ted Kennedy.
Oh, Reagan worked with Ted Kennedy. No, he didn't. Ted Kennedy went after his judges. Ted Kennedy went after his agenda. And he never worked with Tip O'Neill. That's a lie. We had Craig Shirley on here, who is a Reagan historian, and I know from my own life. He was fighting endlessly. He worked with Rostenkowski because he was a moderate Democrat. It's sort of an old school party Democrat out of Chicago on his tax cuts. But he went over the head of Tip O'Neill. How old are you, sir?
I am 54.
Yeah. Well, that's what he did. He never worked with Tip O'Neill. He never worked with Ted Kennedy. But he always advanced his... Sir?
Socialize with those gentlemen?
No, he didn't socialize with those gentlemen. But how can you even make a comparison? By August in his first term, Ronald Reagan had the greatest tax cuts in American history. He spoke to the American people in early August before the vote. He went over the head of the Democrat-controlled House. It was a Democrat-controlled House. He pulled over some of the blue dog Democrats at the time. There aren't many left anymore, out of the South and the Southwest and so forth. Look, I don't have a problem with working with moderate Democrats. Let me ask you, is Chuck Schumer a moderate Democrat?
No.
Is Nancy Pelosi a moderate Democrat?
No.
Okay, thanks for your call. So we want some liberals to call because I want to work this out. I want to work this out. We have one right here. Jen, San Diego, Sirius Satellite. How are you, Jen?
Hi, how you doing?
Okay. How may I help you, Jen?
Well, I'm a liberal Democrat, and I'm glad that you invited me to call. And I support...
I'm not going to invite you to dinner, but we can do this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that we should have socialized medicine. I think that health care should be a right. I'm a school teacher, and I think that all children should have, free government-paid health care.
Yeah. Well, I love all children. Are you aware of that, Jen?
I'm sure you do.
Including dreamers. I'm sick and tired of Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. I'm sick and tired of the Republican establishment. All these years, I've been trying to get them removed. They're entrenched. So I think I need to go around them and work on a bipartisan basis with the Democrats and the liberals. And I met a new friend, Jan, in San Diego on Sirius Satellite. Jen, you're a school teacher, you said, correct?
Yeah, and I've been listening to your show for a long time.
And I just think it's time, don't you?
Yeah, I think everyone needs to come together. I think it's time.
And the way to come together, you will agree, is to embrace liberalism, don't you think? Because it is the come-together ideology.
I don't know about that. You have to look at both sides.
Okay, let's look at both sides.
All right.
Can we look at both sides of health care? Tell me what both sides are.
Well, I think the real problem with it is the medical billing system and the profit-driven delivery.
Yes.
That's what I think is just ruining it.
So profit's the biggest problem.
Exactly.
Yes.
We have to put people before profits.
People, I like that. People before profit.
You can use that.
Can I steal that from you?
Yeah, you can. It's yours for free.
All right. People before profit. I like that.
Yeah,
but what about people before profit? How about people have rights too? Do you like that one?
People can have some rights, sure. I don't know where you're going with that. So it's
what do you mean? Well, Bernie Sanders said health care is a right. You don't agree with that?
Yeah, health care is a right. Now, don't start Bernie bashing on me. We're making some friendship progress here.
We are, and we all know Bernie doesn't bash anybody. Now, let me ask you this, Jen.
Just hold back a little.
You have government-run health care, don't you, pretty much? I mean, you're a school teacher, so the school system pays for your health care, and you contribute into it as well, I assume. Is that correct?
I'm very appreciative for my health care, yeah.
Okay, so when you go to a doctor or a hospital and they don't give you the care you want, are they denying you a right?
No, they are not. I have health care that we pay for.
No, but if you go to a hospital or a doctor and they deny you a certain drug, procedure, care, whatever, or you can't see them when you want to see them, are they denying you a right?
Well, they would be, theoretically, but health care, I think, theoretically should be a right, but we are not given that right.
Well, I mean, if we had a national single-payer Medicare-style health care system for the entire country, would you be prepared to give up your health care?
Yes, I would. And I know that the health care I would get under that nationalized system would not be as good as the health care I have now.
So you know the national – hold on now. So you know the national health care system would be inferior to what you have.
Right. I would take one for the team.
But there's a lot of people who'd have to take one for the team, right?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because I have probably one of the best health care.
No, but why would everybody have to take one for the team? What's that all about?
Okay, in Australia, for instance,
I don't care about Australia. I'm asking you about America. Why would everyone have to take one for the team? What does that mean?
Because I am looking at places where they have gone to a national health care system and where they have already done this and seen how it has resulted when people are allowed to keep private insurance.
Now, wait a minute. So you think people should be able to keep their private insurance if they want to?
Well, I'm saying that in Australia, when people were allowed to keep private insurance...
All right, we're going all over the map here. In Australia, when they were... Would you trade our healthcare system for the Canadian healthcare system?
Yes, I would.
Do you know anything about the Canadian healthcare system?
Yeah, and I've talked to Canadian people who are quite happy.
Canadian people call here all the time and can't stand their healthcare system. Do you want to know why? Listen to me, Jen. Jen, you're invading my safe space. You're triggering me. Are you with me, Jen? Jen, listen to me. You're triggering me. You're triggering me. You're getting into my safe space. I want to explain something to you. There are long, long waiting periods in Canada, even with people who have cancer. Do you think that's a good idea?
You know, the waiting periods aren't that long.
No, they are long. In fact, I've talked about them before. You have access to Google?
I do have access to the Google.
No, it's called Google, not the Google. What I want you to do is...
I call it the Google.
Okay. Well...
That's my favorite.
Hey, I like that one, too. People over profit, the Google. Do you capitalize THE?
No, it's just lowercase.
Anyway, what do you call bling? You call it the bling?
Yeah, it's the bling.
Okay. I want you to Google, the Google, Canadian healthcare and waiting periods. Will you do that when I hang up? You're a teacher. You know how to do all that stuff.
I'll figure it out.
Okay. So here we are going forward, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, Mark, I just want you to know something.
Yes, Jen.
The reason that I would give up my Cadillac healthcare system for a national healthcare system is because I care about my Republican and my conservative
of course you do.
friends. I care about them.
Yes,
and not just my liberal friends. I care about all Americans.
Because you're a good progressive. You have a big heart. You love everybody.
I care about everybody out there listening.
I know you do, including the taxpayers who pay confiscatory property taxes to subsidize your health care. You care about them, too.
And I want to thank them for that.
Yeah, okay. But you won't give it back, will you?
It depends. We could work something out. So.
All right, Jen. Jen, I got to go on. I'm getting bored. No offense. Thank you for your call. Much appreciated. Now we move to Kurt, Green Bay, Wisconsin, the great WTAQ. Yes, Kurt, how may I help you?
Well, we are talking about health care, and I am a big fan of Medicare for All and glad to see that it's getting some traction.
Yeah, me too. But let me ask you a question. Since the trustees of Medicare say it's going to go bankrupt in about 15 years, what do we do about that?
Well, we properly fund it, and
Medicare... No, but it's in the hole by trillions and trillions of dollars. And so when you I'm serious about that. So when our gross domestic product is about $17.6 trillion, and Medicare is in extremis, and it's in debt in an amount that's larger than the entire gross domestic product, and you want to expand it. I'm just curious how what a leftist would do about that. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, the health.
Please answer my question. I don't answer my question.
Well, I am answering your question. If you would allow me a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
We need to contain costs, and Medicare has low administrative costs. We pay more in this country.
No, it doesn't. There's a massive amount of abuse in Medicare, and the government itself puts out reports slapping itself on the face over the abuses in Medicare.
Well,
10%, sir. It's all there on Google. What do you do for a living? Are you a teacher?
I work for a life insurance company.
You work for? Then you know how to use the Google too. So you ought to use the Google and inform yourself. See, I'm trying to come up with solutions, and you're being way too ideological. So how do we make sure everybody who has a right to health care, and of course nobody has the right to a profit, how do we make this work, sir?
Well, how we make it work, we already pay more than any other country for health care. We eliminate the waste.
Well, we can start cutting those costs by cutting your health care.
Well, I pay plenty for my health care.
Well, we want you to pay less, so you'll have less access.
And I will.
Okay, great. I don't want to cut costs. This is what always we pay more than any other country in the world for our health care. Well, what do you want to pay for, sir? You want to buy more? You want to buy another car? You want to buy a bigger house? Want to buy 15 iPhones? What do you want to do?
I want to make sure that everyone has access to health care.
No, you don't. You want to make sure the government controls health care. That doesn't mean everybody has access to quality health care. That means the government controls health care.
Introduced Medicare Part D. Part of the legislation did not allow the government to negotiate with drug companies. That's certainly a great start to reduce
Sir,
costs.
We're in the hole trillions of dollars in Medicare. That's not going to do a damn thing.
Fund it properly because people are paying money.
But how do you want to fund it?
The premiums that people are currently paying.
I asked you, how do you want to fund Medicare?
Well, we would fund it. Well, I get away from the employer-based system that we currently have.
Okay, well, I'm going to try again. And you left this. You never have answers. How do you want to fund it? I didn't ask you what you want to get away from. How do you want to fund it? It's in the hole trillions of dollars. You want to expand it to include every human being in America, all 320 million. How do you want to fund it?
Well, of course you fund it by taxes, so people would offset. You would pay more taxes, but you would more than make up decreased premiums.
No, you wouldn't.
Better care.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. What about the Veterans Administration? Is that what's happened there?
Now, the VA has a separate system. I think the veterans deserve good health care in this country. I
didn't ask you about what you think and feel. I asked you, isn't the Veterans Administration the kind of model you're talking about?
No, because they have their own hospitals. I'm not talking about having the hospitals run individually by the government.
Why? Why not?
I'm saying that the private health...
Why shouldn't the hospitals be run by the government? And by the way, what's wrong with that? In fact, why shouldn't the doctors work for the government?
I like the system. You know, you talked about Canada, and I'm sure that
Canada's a disaster.
Not happy, but that system, and it would take.
Everybody wants to talk about Canada. You don't know a damn thing about the Canadian healthcare system, do you?
Oh, please. Oh, why would you say that to me, not knowing me one bit?
Okay, tell us about the Canadian healthcare system.
Well, I can tell that you're not a very good listener. And
tell the whole country about the Canadian healthcare system. So far, you've been rambling and rambling, and you haven't said a damn thing. Tell me about the Canadian healthcare system. Mr. Producer, give him the 20-second liberal clock. Go.
Here, I'll give you this. I live in Paul Ryan's district, and he has Randy Bryce running against him. Paul Ryan has been misrepresented.
So far, ladies and gentlemen, you see the problem here, don't you? Here I am trying to be, trying to be kind and beneficent, and Kurt doesn't have any answers. You don't have any answers. What do you think about your quarterback, Rodgers, who think it's okay that Kaepernick kneeled? What do you think about that one? Oh, he left. I guess he's angry. You know the old saying, Don't go away angry, just go away. Anyway, I'm not done. I'm serious. I want to talk to serious, intelligent leftists who are going to tell us what kind of system they want and how it's going to work. I'll be right back. Orthopedic surgery, 38 weeks. Ophthalmology, 28.5 weeks. Plastic surgery, 26 weeks. Gynecology, 18.8 weeks. We're talking almost 5 months. Urology, 16.2 weeks. Over 4 months. Internal medicine, 12.9 weeks. Radiation oncology. Now, this is life and death for a lot of people. 4.1 weeks. That's a month. General surgery, 12.1 weeks. That's 3 months. Cardiovascular, 8.4 weeks. That's the heart. Medical oncology, 3.7 weeks. Now, that's your national health care, and it cost the average citizen there a fortune. And by the way, we've had callers from Canada call here and say, and by the way, it's not all free, they tell us. We pay an enormous amount of taxes, plus we have to pay fees. Because it's an impossibility. These systems cannot possibly work, and they don't work. And so what happens is you have rationing. So the sickest among us and the oldest among us suffer the most. They suffer the most because that's where the expense is. Charles, New Windsor, New York, the great WABC, go. Okay, let's move on. Ray, Poughkeepsie, New York, the great WKIP, go.
Yes, hi, you got a beautiful city of Poughkeepsie here. How
All right, sir, thank you. Yep.
I'm really honored to talk to an educated person. I study history of my life.
Okay, what do you have for me? We're going to run out of time.
Okay. You know, I just want to say that President Nixon is the first president to declare the war on cancer and the research and the development, that we've come a long way. Barack Obama, you know, everyone's bashing the Affordable Care Act, and, you know, what's happening is it's a stepping stone, you know. It's
stepping stone to what? Disaster?
Opened and more health care provided.
No, it's not. When insurance companies are pulling out and individuals who used to afford health care can't afford it anymore with these massive deductibles, when insurance companies are pulling out of counties because they don't want to go broke, when we, the taxpayer, are forking over billions and billions of dollars in subsidies left, right, and in between, when in fact the Obamacare is essentially a government-run redistribution program, doctors want to get out of health care, and that's going to become a problem. What are you talking about? It's a stepping stone to what?
Stepping stone. It's
to what?
Not perfect, but guess what?
Hey, pal. Nobody said anything's perfect. And I'm tired of these platitudes from the left. Here we are staring in the face of a disastrous government-run centralized program where everything we were told turns out to be the opposite, and you tell us it's a stepping stone. Like I say in my first chapter of Ameritopia, this is the viewpoint of the utopian. The utopian progressive. They will tell you that whatever they have, of course it doesn't work. It's imperfect because we need more. Obamacare didn't work, so we need government-run health care. That doesn't work. Why? Because the insurance companies are ripping us off. The drug companies are ripping us off because patients expect too much. They're getting too old. We got to, write off people who are over 80 years old. Or maybe these people with really rare diseases. We shouldn't be focusing so much funds on that. We have to focus funds on the greater good. I got that about right, Ray, in Poughkeepsie, New York?
Well, you know what?
You better start, you know what, pal? You really better start thinking this stuff through.
Is this. You know what? Barack Obama put so much stop to all the government corruption and the fraud.
Oh, really? And how did he do that? And so far, the organization determined that the credit card numbers for about 200,000 consumers and personal data, including Social Security numbers for about 180,000 consumers, were accessed. Did you know you are 11 times more likely to become a victim of identity fraud if you are notified of a breach? Good thing there's LifeLock. LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats, threats you may miss by just monitoring your credit, like someone stealing from your 401k. But if there's a problem, A U.S.-based identity restoration specialist will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock is the best. LifeLock can help you see more threats to your identity. Go to LifeLock.com, LifeLock.com, or call 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock. Use promo code Levin, that's Levin, for 10% off your LifeLock membership. Visit LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Save 10% now with promo code Levin. I'll tell you what. I think whenever we have one of these big natural disasters and after they hit, or let me say this, during the course and after they hit, no politician should be allowed to speak to us for 72 hours. That's just my feeling. I'm sick and tired of the conga line of politicians coming through. What are they going to tell us? All right, we're going to clean up on this healthcare stuff, and we're going to move on to some other things. Jim, Toledo, Ohio, Sirius Satellite. How are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm fine, thanks.
Yes.
So, as I told your producer, I'm a Democrat, I'm a liberal, and I don't want the government anywhere near health care. I'm also a doctor, by the way.
What kind of doctor?
Pediatrician. Retired, actually, now, but
very good.
Practiced for 25 years. But I haven't seen the government do anything with any kind of efficiency or cost savings or anything. I have zero confidence in their ability to correctly handle any of this stuff. You might even ask why I'm a liberal, but that's a long
Well, I will,
story.
but first I want to know, when people say healthcare is a right, what does that mean to you?
Well, it is.
Does that mean anybody can line up outside your door and get care, whether you can, whether they can afford it or not, or whether they're in this country or not, or whatever the circumstances are?
Well, I'll tell you what. You know, you go back to the way we started this country, and we are the Western European. We're, for our brother. We're our brother's keeper. Whether we like it or not, that's our
No. Our brother's keeper does not mean we're socialists.
Socialist.
That has nothing to do with it.
No, it's not socialism, though. It's the
Our brother's keeper means that on voluntary basis, we watch out for our neighbor. We do through our churches and synagogues and so forth. It means that we give to charity and support charities, that we are people who believe in family and helping our neighbors and so forth. It has nothing to do with government.
It also, no, not with government, no, but it means if someone is in need, you help them. And in medicine, unfortunately, the way it works is the only way you can provide for them is it's going to cost money. So someone's going to end up paying for that one way or the other.
Well, there has to be some way to manage supply and demand, right?
Well, the demand in medicine is always going to outstrip the supply for a lot of reasons.
No, that's not true. It can become an enormous imbalance. Sir, you're relatively smart, right? You look around the world. Those systems that pretend to be compassionate, where they control supply and demand through centralized government, do they work? No. Are they compassionate? Aren't they police states?
Most of them.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but...
So why don't you push for the opposite, which is the reason we have the greatest medical system in the world is not because of the creation of Medicare, the creation of Medicaid, or the creation of the CHIP program, or the creation of emergency rooms open to illegal aliens since the early 1980s. The reason we have the greatest healthcare system in the world is because we have the greatest economic system in the world. It's also the reason we have the greatest technological system in the world. It's tied to human individuality, human value, human worth, human initiative. And to say that that applies to people who produce toasters but not to people in the medical field seems counterintuitive to me.
Yes, but let me just say this. The medicine that we have in the United States is not necessarily always superior to the medicine that is in other countries. Our delivery of medicine to the greatest number at the shortest period of time, all that is true, and that's due to the economics. The actual science behind it, the actual medicines behind it, are quite comparable whether you go
Why does
to the
that
United
matter?
States or India. Well,
I'm for capitalism, don't you understand? I'm for better ideas being imported into the United States. And in some cases, our ideas being exported as long as they're not enemy countries. So why is that an issue?
Well,
it's not an issue with me.
Go back and rephrase that. So,
in other words, it's not an issue with me. So if another country comes up with a great idea and they want to share it with us, or we can purchase it from them and they patent it and so forth, I have no problem with that.
No.
So what?
It has nothing to do with that. My point was that we provide more medical care to more people because of our economic system. But the actual level of medicine that we provide is not. The reason why the demand will always outstrip the supply is because people think that they're sick when they're not. And so they want instant relief. We have bred a culture where people are looking for instant relief. Just look at any TV and look at the commercials on it. They have medicines that claim to do just about everything for you. I mean, we've created kind of our own monster in this case. But that having been said, I'm not sure what a good way to handle the situation is. We are going to continue to provide care for people, whether they're indigent or not, whether they're illegal aliens
or not. There will be a point at which we can't. And that's the whole point of redistributing services. And that's the point of shortages, and that's the point of waiting periods, and that's what these socialist industrialized societies do. Their emergency rooms can't handle the number of people who come, so they're on the gurneys and they're outside, or they're sitting in ambulances. This is a incredibly huge problem in Britain right now.
Yeah.
Or you just or people get out of the. How old are you?
I'm 65.
And when did you stop practicing? How old were you?
About 7 years ago.
So you're a relatively young man when you stopped.
Yeah. Well.
And why did you do that?
Because my partner and I had a company that was doing very well, and I needed the practice to continue. It's tough to find men who are going into primary care pediatrics, and we found a guy and recruited him, and the practice couldn't support 5 doctors, only 4. But and I miss it terribly because I absolutely loved it. But, you know, we have a business now, and we're doing quite well.
But more and more doctors are dropping out of the system, aren't they?
Unfortunately, and
I'm looking at I looked at the statistics about a few months ago when we discussed this, and we're going to have a doctor shortage.
We already do have a doctor shortage, especially where it counts. You don't have a doctor shortage in the specialists who are getting the most of the money, but you do have.
Well, you do have a doctor shortage with specialists, but you're right. Pediatricians, primary doctors, general practitioners. All right, doctor, I appreciate your viewpoint on this. Very edifying.
Anytime, Mark. Anytime.
All right. Take care of yourself. Let's go to Max, Frisco, Texas, the great WBAP. I'll take one more call on this after Max, then we're going to move along. Go right ahead.
Hey, real quick, Mark. Pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I am, and well, I'm not currently, but I have been an emergency room charge nurse. But more importantly, I was raised in Canada. And although I'm a liberal on many, many fronts, I can tell you I was raised in Canada. I'll give you a couple examples of what you're talking about for waiting. My mother had to have a hysterectomy. She waited 18 months to have a hysterectomy. When she had to have her total knees done, she waited for almost 3 years. She had a kidney stone one time. She waited for 14 months.
Oh, my Lord, that's painful. Yes.
Yes, I've got friends up there. I've got a lot of friends up there who can't find primary care doctors. And back in the late 80s, they capitated their doctors. In other words, their doctors could only make so much per patient. And I can remember going into waiting rooms to see the doctor when I was in high school and so forth, and there'd be 20 people in a waiting room. I can tell you I've lived in the States since 86. I've never seen 20 people in a doctor's waiting room. I thought that was normal. But once they capitated the doctors, a lot of the doctors just said, we're capitated. We're going to work 4 days a week.
By the way, that happens truthfully with dentists in Britain. And they have a horrible problem, people seeing dentists in Britain. Go ahead.
You had doctors' offices with 40, 45 people waiting in them. I've got good friends up in Canada that live there, and the ones, I mean, and some of these guys own businesses, and are well-to-do, they cannot find a primary care physician. I kid you not. Mm-hmm. I'm a liberal on a lot of
what you're telling the American people is this is a disastrous system.
I'm telling you, I lived through it. Mm-hmm. My mother lived through it. My father lived through it. This is not the way you want to go. You talk about rationing bodies. You talk about waiting lines. You talk about not being able to see someone. Yeah, it's free. It's free because they take it out of your paychecks. It's taxed. And another myth about the Canadian healthcare system, it's not national.
That's each
province has their own. In Ontario, where I lived, it was called OHIP. And you pay for that out of your paychecks. They start taking the very first job I had. I couldn't believe the amount of money that was taken out of my paycheck for OHIP insurance. I'm just telling you, Mark, I'll battle with you on other subjects, but not on this one. All
right, Max. I appreciate your call, my friend. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is where we're headed. And I got to look into this new proposal by Lindsey Graham and Ron Johnson and some of the others, as they claim it's the last best effort to get rid of Obamacare. So I want to take a look at this overnight. All right, we'll be right back. Every day we hear about risks. I've talked about them for months now. Geopolitical. Cyber risks continue to be in the news every day. You know, no matter where you turn, there are serious risks that are affecting our lives more than we think. And we need to take them very seriously, and we need to be prepared for them. Take the steps to protect yourself now so you're prepared for the future. Gold has survived financial devastation, wars, natural disasters, currency failures for thousands of years. It's better to gain peace of mind now than looking back and wishing, gee, I should have done that. So do it now. Now, for a limited time, Goldline is offering price protection for 3 months on orders as low as $2,500. That's really a great deal. It's an amazing special from Goldline. It's been a wonderful sponsor for many years. Give them a call, 1-877-365-COIN. Be sure to read their important risk information to be sure buying gold is right for you. 1-877-365-COIN, 1-877-365-2646. Yes, I have gold, and I'm glad I do. Gold coins that I got from Goldline. I think it's very, very important. What? How did that happen? How did I lose my call screen? All right, Mr. Producer, I'm counting on you to use your wisdom and prudence. Who shall I speak to, sir? Tammy in Illinois, Sirius Satellite. Go.
Oh, Mark, it is such an honor to talk with you. I'm telling you, I listen to you every day on my way home from work. I pray for you. I thank God for you. You are on the front lines. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I am not a woman who cusses, Mark, but I am telling you, these liberals make me cuss.
They sound stupid, don't they? I mean, I had them on the air, and they just go on and on like dummies.
Gosh. Hey, and you have behaved very nicely.
Yeah, it wasn't easy.
Listen, I want to ask, I just want somebody to tell me who in the heck does not have health care. I work for a literacy program in the inner city of Decatur, Illinois, where I teach adults to read and do math. I also have an ESL class teaching non-native speakers to speak English. Every one of them, Mark, can go to the emergency room. They have health care. They can take their child has a cough, and they take them to the ER. I have hundreds of students. I have never heard one of them say, "Oh, I can't go. I can't take my child. They don't have I don't have health care." Who doesn't have health care?
In fact, people cross the border to get health care in America.
Oh, my God.
Poor people come here illegally in many countries. In many cases, I've talked to many doctors, and people who can't afford it a lot of them come north out of Canada because they can't wait a year for a particular procedure.
No, it's ridiculous. And I am sitting here, I get paid very little to teach these people because we're a grant-funded program, and I never go to the ER. I mean, when I was raising my kids, I waited and waited and waited because I knew if I took them, it was going to cost me an arm and a leg.
One of the things that perplexes me is that there are millions of people in this country who distrust government, right?
Yeah.
And yet, conversely, they trust it with life and death decisions like health care.
It's a good point.
How do you explain that? They think they're going to get something for free. They think they're going to get something subsidized. I think that's part of it. They think somebody else is going to pay for something. So although they don't like the government, they don't like to pay for things.
I know. And I'm having a very difficult time looking these students in the eye without going, I am paying for your damn health care. Look at me. I don't cuss, Mark. I don't cuss.
Well, every now and then try it. It won't kill you. All right, my friend. No, I'm just kidding. You sound great, Tammy. I appreciate your call. God bless you. And Tammy's from Illinois, the land of Little Dick Durbin. Used to be the land of Lincoln. Now it's the land of Little Dick Durbin. Louis, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Sirius Satellite. Go.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Okay.
I am actually a Hispanic conservative here in New Mexico, and I actually have family who lives in Australia. My wife's aunt does. In order to receive a pacemaker in Australia, for these people who think that their health care is so great, you actually have to have a sustained heart rate of 30 beats a minute for 90 days with an extra 30 days, so 120 days complete, in order to receive a pacemaker. After she got that pacemaker in Australia...
So wait, you got to wait 3 months?
Yes. She waited 3 months.
So you may not survive it.
Right, exactly. But you have to have it documented, so it has to be in the 30s. So
by the way, this is how they do it. This is how they cut costs. Go ahead.
Oh, exactly. So, and then you have to have a verification of 30 more days. So she went 120 days when she received her pacemaker. She actually got a pacemaker that wasn't even sold in the United States. The reason I know this is I am a healthcare provider in the United States also. So
can I tell you a little secret? Stop bullying our kids. And she says LGBTQ very, very quickly. And she's got all these great applause lines. And yesterday she was on Capitol Hill. And well, you listen for yourself. Cut 18, go.
Okay, so here we are. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Lin-Manuel Miranda is the great creative talent. Lin-Manuel Miranda took the story of our founding and imbued it with a fresh life and infectious spirit. Lin-Manuel is continuing. Lin-Manuel, I am truly convinced we celebrate Lin-Manuel Miranda, a man gifted by the muse of history. Thank you, Lin-Manuel. Thank you, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
It's Lin-Manuel Miranda. Miranda. Thank you. That's an applause line. That's an applause line, by the way. All right. This is not an applause line, ladies and gentlemen. California wants to be a sanctuary state. Now, this is the state that gave us the great Ronald Reagan. This is a state that elected Pete Wilson, governor twice. The great Duke Majan, governor twice. You know, here's the thing. It really wasn't that long ago when the pundits, when all the brainiacs and all the think tanks were telling us that Republican presidents will be elected as far as the eye can see. Because they'll have California locked up, Texas locked up, and Florida locked up. And then, of course, the rest of the states. But they'll have those big three forever. And the Democrats said, we better do something about this. It started with judges who changed the immigration policies of the state, and it went from there. And California now is essentially a one-party state. And not just a one-party state, a very radical Democrat Party one-party state, extremely radical. It's spending itself into bankruptcy. It's choking off the Republican areas of the state, particularly the farm areas, like central and eastern parts of California. So you basically have Sacramento, San Francisco, and Los Angeles controlling the entirety of the state. And more people who vote Republican or who are conservative are leaving the state. In many cases, they were born in this state. They're multiple generations from this state. And, you know, when I'm at the Reagan Library, I meet them. And, of course, I lived a short period in California, and both my kids live in California. My granddaughter does, my son-in-law. And you can see what's happening. Every radical kook left-wing idea is codified in California's statutes or regulations. And there's really not a damn thing conservatives/Republicans can do about it in a one-party state. But I do salute and tip my hat at the conservatives who remain in California and do fight. And they fight at the local level, and they fight at the congressional level, and they do everything they can, and that's a good thing. But California is pushing to become a sanctuary state. This from the Mercury News. The latest version of Senate Bill 54 would allow federal immigration officers to interview people in custody, though they can no longer have permanent office space in jails, according to information provided by Senate Leader Kevin DeLeon's office, who wrote the bill. The changes would also exclude state prisons from many of the requirements and would expand the list of crimes that would be exempt from some of the bill's key provisions, amendments sought by some law enforcement groups as well as Brown. So as they pointed at Hot Air, John Sexton, Brown reached an agreement with California Senate Leader DeLeon, which will make California a sanctuary state. It still prohibits the proposed law enforcement officers from asking people about their immigration status, participating in Border Patrol activities, arresting people on civil immigration warrants, or acting as deputized immigration enforcement agents. It still would restrict the ability of California law enforcement officers to notify federal immigration agents about the immigration status of some detainees or to transfer some inmates into federal custody. But in a concession to law enforcement, a longer list of crimes will be exempted from those restrictions, such as felony assault convictions within the previous 15 years. Wow, that was a gimme. Now, the bill would also require California schools, hospitals, libraries, and courthouses to restrict enforcement of federal immigration laws on their premises. All this is being done to block what is seen as increased deportation activity by ICE under the Trump administration. And so we have an entire state now, our largest state, which is moving towards sanctuary status, which is an illegal status that nullifies federal law. There was a time when the courts were concerned about this. They're not concerned about it anymore. You can nullify federal law if the purpose of nullifying federal law is to advance a radical left agenda. Now, they claim this is federalism. No, that's not federalism. Federalism is a constitutional position or idea. Nullification has nothing to do with the Constitution, and it's not legal. And so the Democrats are back to their old tricks of nullification. This nullification was something that they promoted during the pre-Civil War and Civil War periods. And, of course, the secession talk in California is hot and growing, which, of course, is another throwback to the pre-Civil War and Civil War period. The Democrats are up to their old tricks in this regard. They don't believe in the Union unless they get everything they want all the time. It's sad what's happened to California. And the left has done this, and they've done this in a number of states. They've done it in California. They did it in Colorado. I remember the time Colorado was a dark red state, a reliable red state. The same can be said for other states, but not anymore. Look at Virginia. Virginia, for a long period of time, was a reliable red state. Now it's a purple state moving blue. You simply cannot continue to lose these states and expect to win national elections. You just can't. And obviously, when we lose Florida, as we did when Obama ran, you can't win as a Republican. Now the Democrats are focused on Texas because they know if they turn Texas, the game's over. Electoral college, no electoral college. Popular vote, no popular. It doesn't matter. They get California, they get Texas, they have New York, they have these big states. There's no, combination of states and numbers that can deliver a victory through the electoral college or the popular vote. And of course, if Florida goes, and same thing. That's icing on the cake. But they're focused very heavily on Texas. Now, ironically, many of the people leaving California are going to Texas. Not all, obviously, but many. And so in many respects, in my view, that's helping Texas. But there will be a time, if the immigration patterns keep up, if the legalization of illegal aliens, that pattern keeps up, whether it's DACA or whether it's something else, Texas will go Democrat. And then it's over. Electorally, it's over. I'll be right back. Maybe it'll spread to state elections. And then the game is over too, isn't it? This in the Washington Compost, Maryland politics. Non-citizens can now vote in College Park, Maryland. Well, I won't be living in College Park, Maryland. Will you, folks? Or maybe we should all just go there and vote on Election Day. And do you have to be a non-citizen to vote? How about if you're a citizen from another state? Can you vote? We can all just kind of flood the place, throw out the mayor, throw out the whatever they've got there, their council, put in some conservatives, and then go home. The Washington suburb of College Park, Maryland, on Tuesday became the largest U.S. city to allow non-citizens to cast ballots in municipal elections after a divided city council vote that reflected the nation's heated and emotional debate over illegal immigration. Now, that's interesting. Is there a debate in this country that illegal aliens should vote? No, but this is the propaganda and the stupidity of the Washington Compost. Unlike most other states, Maryland allows towns and cities to decide for themselves who can vote in local elections. Recent year, Hyattsville, Mount Rainier, Tacoma Park, and several smaller towns have extended that privilege to non-citizens. No offense to conservatives, real patriots in Maryland, but when I moved to this area, I made it abundantly clear to my family, I'm not moving into Maryland. With their taxes, with their gun control, and now this. You'd have to be out of your mind. College Park, home to about 32,000, and the University of Maryland's flagship campus will join them starting 2019. So College Park, just so you know, is where the University of Maryland is based. The decision to allow undocumented immigrants, even there, the language has really changed, and it's changed, and it's like you blink and it's no big deal. Undocumented immigrants. In other words, illegal aliens. Student visa holders and residents with green cards, now they can vote. Comes eight months into a crackdown on illegal immigration by Trump, so it's Trump's fault. And 1 week after his administration said it will wind down a deportation relief program for DACA. But he said he's not going to deport these people. So there you go, more propaganda from the Washington Compost. Makes me want to sit down with dinner with Schumer and Pelosi. How about you? Councilman, and you better watch the silverware there, Mr. President. I don't trust that Schumer for 2 seconds. Watch the silverware. Council members and activists who supported the measure said it would send a message that College Park is a welcoming community for all residents, regardless of legal status. That's the message? The message is, let's get the hell out of this town before it's too late and our real estate values crash, because we have a city council that's out of its mind. That's crazy as hell. Even if it weren't for the national context, it would be important for us to vote in support of non-citizens voting, said former Mayor Andrew Fellows, one of 30 people to speak during the 4-hour meeting. We should experiment in inclusivity wherever we possibly can. Not inclusivity, stupidity, you moron. On both sides, tensions flared, with some of the audience booing speakers and the mayor at one point declaring that there was not a competition to see who could clap the loudest. I came here to have a civil discourse, and I was called a Nazi, said Rick Hudson, who opposed allowing non-citizens to vote. That's right. If you oppose non-citizens voting, you're obviously part of the Third Reich who want to put people in concentration camps. There's no question about it. People are afraid to speak one way or another on this issue. And it goes on, one doofus after another. But they voted for it, and the vote was 4-3. And this will start to catch fire. This will become part of another civil rights movement. You don't think so? Oh, yes, just like the bathroom thing. What do you mean? The boys, they go to the girls' room, and the girls go to the boys' room, and you self-identify? That's insanity. That'll never happen. And then the fiat comes down from the Department of No Education, a.k.a. the Department of Illiteracy. Yes, we are, for now on, ordering. And by the way, Department of Education? Oh, yes, ordering that for now on, boys can use girls' rooms and girls can use boys' rooms if they self-identify. Biological reality is of no relevance. Sue, Damascus, Maryland, the great WMAL. How are you, Sue? Go ahead, Sue. All right, hold on to Sue. Christian, Monterey Park, California, on the Mark Levin app. Quickly, go.
Hi, Mark. First, I want to say this is actually my first call into a radio show, and I'm glad you're the first one.
Well, so you're a Virgin radio caller. Well, welcome.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I am a conservative from California, a young conservative, and I wanted to address the point that you brought. I totally agree with you that moving away from California would just turn the state more and more blue. And so, this is my home, born and raised, and I want to stay here and see it turn back to red.
Or we could all move to Mexico and change that country. Have you ever thought of that?
Yeah, definitely. Why not, right? I mean,
just bring your own water and a bulletproof vest.
Yes, exactly. We need a filtration system over there.
Well, Christian, Monterey Park's a very nice area, isn't it?
It is. It is a really nice, small Asian community. So, really nice.
Okay. Yes. Is that it? All right, Christian, thanks for your call. Let's go back to Sue. Is she there? From Damascus, Maryland.
Yes.
How are you,
here,
Sue?
Mark.
Yes.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I just wanted to thank you for your wonderful book, Rediscovering Americanism, and for all the work you put into CRTV. I have both items, and I actually, with Rediscovering Americanism, I have the book on tape, and I also have the hardcover book. And I find that
there's a huge misconception surrounding the United States Concealed Carry Association right now, and I need to clear things up. You don't need your CCW permit to be protected. Whether you carry your gun or keep it under lock and key at home, you still need self-defense insurance. Remember the story about Buddy, the Army vet, who was arrested on his own property just for defending his family? If you're still thinking that you'll be declared the good guy when an attack happens in your home, you're leaving your family vulnerable. There will always be an investigation, and that means bail money and lawyer fees your family shouldn't have to pay. Now, here's the good news. That is, you can shield yourself immediately with a USCCA membership. Activate today, and you'll get a $75 range bag completely free. That's right. It's a great range bag, $75 value, completely free. So it's limited edition as well. But you have to hurry. There's only a limited amount, and they're going to go fast. So act right now. Hurry over to defendthem.com to secure your free range bag and get your protection. That's defendthem.com, defendthem.com. I want to go back to Sue in Damascus, Maryland, the great WMAL. So, Sue, what were you saying?
Well, I wanted to say that I can't remember what chapter it was, but you talked about morality and the citizenry and governments, and you had one line in there that said if a citizenry is without, and I'm in the car, so I don't have it verbatim.
If a citizenry loses its virtue, no government can fix it.
No government will be able to save you from tyranny.
That's correct.
And that phrase haunted me all the way up from Charleston, South Carolina. And when I got back, I put on the audiobook and I listen to it. And I do have CRTV, which I absolutely would encourage everyone to get. I listen to it every day. I watch it while I'm at the gym. I tell my friends I'm exercising my body and exercising my mind. And that book means so much to me. I don't think I have read a book that has meant so much to me as this book. And I just want to thank you so much for writing it, because it doesn't matter. It
only took me 16 months and virtually every night and weekend that I had, but thank you.
It's an amazing book, and it doesn't matter what political ideology your reader has. It is packed full of history and philosophy. And what you get when you finish that book is you realize how lucky you are that, the universe rolled the dice and you were born in this great country. You realize how wonderful our founding fathers were, our documents, I just cannot thank you enough for that book, and I would encourage people to go out and buy that book. And I've not only read that book, Mark, I have embraced it. That book has become part of me.
Now, so you're really, really generous and kind, and I don't know you, right? So I just want to make it clear this isn't a setup call.
No, we don't know each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you. And by the way, it's a tough book. I mean, you got to take your time and listen to the audio or actually read it. You may want to go back and read some of the other phrases I've written or some of the things other people have said, right?
Exactly. And it's a book that engages the reader. You're not just a bystander with that book. You're not just passively reading it, and you are an integral part of that book. That book exists when you enter that book. And, maybe I'm talking like the English major I was, but I just cannot. That book means so much to me, and I've encouraged my friends to buy it. I've also encouraged them to do CRTV because I don't know how you prep for those shows, but every single one of those shows are fantastic. And
well, you're very kind. You're very, very kind. The only reason I'm going to leave, I could listen to this all night, of course, is because probably the people listening on radio say, all right, enough already. But I want to thank you, Sue. And what I'll do is I'll send you a signed copy of Rediscovering Americanism, and I really, really appreciate it. You take care. And it's had an effect like that on many, many people. People send me notes. I get them at the office. I actually get them. Never mind. I get a number of notes. But I also get stuff like this. People commenting on my Facebook. Visitor. Here's a visitor. A guy by the name of Mickey Townley. Stop it, Mark. I just went to the toilet to puke. Pelosi, I can't handle no more, sir, with all due respect. And I understand what he's saying. He's actually a good guy. People don't want me calling out Trump. They just don't want me calling out Trump. Folks, I am not a lapdog for any politician. I've never been to the White House with Trump. I've never been to Mar-a-Lago with Trump. I've never been to whatever in his New Jersey place with Trump. He used to call me. I liked him very, very much. Not often. And I still like him very, very much. It's not a matter of like with me. I think he's a really cool guy. I really do. But, when he's cutting deals with people who truly are way out there, and the deals are not good deals, well, of course. I mean, somebody's going to have to speak up and put pressure on him. I'm not going to surrender, it's getting almost to 50 years, but 45 years of my belief system and values and so forth. I'm just not going to do it. I know all the cheerleaders are out there, all the pom-poms and rockettes, or others who are cowards, are afraid of their own shadows, afraid to affect their ratings. I call them as I see them. I've been doing this a long time. And you folks in my audience, you are very, very loyal, and I am blessed to have you. I am blessed to have you. Patrick, Mansfield, Texas, the great WBAP. Go.
Hey, Mark, this is Patrick. First, I want to say I love CRTV. I love the show as well.
There's another. I appreciate it. Yeah. There's a great one tonight, by the way. I think you'll like it on Levin TV.
Definitely. I'll check it out. So the other day I heard you speaking a lot about how Trump's recent deal with Pelosi and Schumer.
And by the way, there's going to be more, apparently. But anyway, go right ahead.
And I think we're not that surprised that his Democratic tendencies are starting to come out. So the bad media obviously outweighs the good for President Trump. Trump loves good coverage, but more importantly, I think he wants his name on things. And the Republican Party is not passing anything. Obviously, he's not an ideologue. So the Democrats are taking advantage of this. And I've been on a Milton Friedman binge lately, and I remember him talking about not electing the right people, but making it politically profitable for all the wrong people to do the right things.
Mm-hmm.
So Trump is obviously the wrong guy. We want him to do the right things. So,
well, he is the president, and that's
right,
the way that is.
Well, that is good news. It's better than Hillary, obviously.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
Both the Trump and the GOP, most of those people are the wrong people. They're not really conservatives. They're Republicans. Obviously, that platform's
but
better
the
than
irrationality here with what Trump is doing and what his supporters are saying is this. First of all, they're trashing conservatives who dare to say, hey, what the hell's going on here? And they're using the typical liberal propaganda and platitudes to attack conservatives. You're purists, you're out of touch, you don't represent most of the people. Actually, we do. But that said, and then the other is that this is some kind of a genius strategy. There's no genius strategy cutting deals with Schumer and Pelosi. Any moron can do that. And
right.
they'll get 90% of what they want. In the last case, they got 100% of what they wanted. The real hard work is going over the heads of the entrenched politicians and bureaucrats in Washington, which is what Reagan did. And the really hard work is revolutionizing and reforming the Republican Party. And Trump doesn't want to do it. He's not into that. And then today he's been calling himself, he's a conservative over and over again, he said. And yet his supporters say he's never said he was a conservative. So we get these mixed messages, and this is what happens when you're not moored to certain principles.
Right.
And so when you're cutting deals and you're making deals, if you're not coming at that with a certain set of hard and fast principles, and the other side is, because they're radical progressives, we will be on the losing side of these deals. It's that
Absolutely.
simple.
You can't out-Christmas them, as Ron Paul put it.
Mm-hmm. All right, my friend, I appreciate your call. Emma, San Jose, California, the great KSFO. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so I'm 18, and I've been living in California my whole life. 4 generations of my family have lived here, and now I look at it, and I don't think I'll be able to afford it or if I want to live here. And it's kind of disappointing.
It's a big problem, but, one of the great things we have in this country is mobility. And I wrote about that in Liberty and Tyranny. And that's really what it's one of the things that keeps the country together. So if a state becomes truly oppressive, you can get up and move to another state. And you can see that all over the country. It happens all the time. Certain states are being depopulated. You can look at Illinois, New Jersey, California, California in some respects, New York. And other states are being populated, and that would include Texas and Florida and so forth. So it's sad. You don't want to leave your home. You don't want to leave where 4 generations of your family grew up. You don't have to. But you may have to, depending on the circumstances. I'm sorry, and I know you're 18. Yep.
Yeah, I get worried about, too, how the future of the state, because I look at how much money they're spending on pensions and everything, and if we go into...
Well, California's going to go bankrupt, and if the Democrats control the federal government, they will bail out California, and they're going to have to start bailing out a lot of these blue states, and some of these red states, too, where you have irresponsible governors. Like Kasich is the irresponsible governor. He's dragged Ohio through trickery into the Obama and Medicaid abyss. And one day Ohio will go bankrupt as a result of that clown.
It frustrates me so much, and I feel that it's irresponsible when politicians pass proposals that have good intents, but yet they can't pay for them, because at some point when you can't pay back that debt, the young generations like mine are the ones that will suffer.
I wrote an entire book on this, so I want to send it to you, okay? Don't hang up. It's called Plunder and Deceit. and we will send you a signed copy of that, so don't hang up.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
It's specifically for a young lady like you. You're very, very welcome. We'll be right back. Made that connection before. Very, very good to know. Are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? You know, with ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to 100-plus job sites with just one click. Then their powerful technology efficiently matches the right people to your job better than anyone else. Now, that's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within 1 day. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, and manage candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, listen to this. My listeners, you can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Levin. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Levin. One more time to try it for free. Now, you've heard me talk about it. Jump in. ZipRecruiter.com/Levin. That's Levin. All right, let's go. Matthew, Dallas, Texas, the great WBAP. Go.
Hey, Mr. Levin. It's a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, sir.
I was calling and touch base with you on the point that you were making, how if anybody opposes illegal or undocumented immigrants, as they put it, that they call them Nazis and racists. And I just think that's very hypocritical, because here in Dallas, the Dallas Independent School District spends close to about $7 billion a year to educate undocumented, non-English speaking students, while in impoverished black communities like Oak Cliff and Pleasant Grove, you have high schools like South Oak Cliff High School and I think it's Spruce High School. Yeah, Spruce High School. They've been shut down on and off over the years for lack of funding, or South Oak Cliff High School literally has building code errors where it was unsafe for the students to go to school there. And I just think that's very hypocritical to say that not giving this funding to illegal immigrants is racist when they are racist against our very own citizens on their behalf.
This is a problem. It's a big problem because local communities have limited resources. They can keep raising taxes all they want. They have limited resources. It drains it out of the community. It drains it out of the school system, drains it out of law enforcement, drains it out of health care like hospitals and so forth. And you're not allowed to discuss this. You're not allowed to discuss it.
Yeah, it's absolutely asinine. And you got guys like down here. I live in a purple district in a red state, and Mayor Rawlings, he's been trying to sneak this stuff in with us in this corrupt city council we have, and I'm sure you're aware of the corruption trial that's been going on down here with local officials. It's just all a mess, and they try to go behind. I'm neither here nor there on the Confederate statue thing, but just another example. They tried to go and basically fabricate the whole taking down of the Robert E. Lee statue in Lee Park. Now, they voted for it, and that's democracy. But he set it up before the vote, and it kind of fell. The bottom kind of fell out of it. Just kind of a testament to how absolutely brainless and asinine these ideas are.
All right, Matthew. Appreciate your call, man. You take care. Joey, Norfolk, Virginia, Sirius Satellite. How are you?
Mr. Mark, absolute pleasure. First time ever calling in, but you really hit a nerve with the conversation with the VA and then having the liberals, the progressives come on and try to explain the way. I served 24 years in the Navy. I was a submariner, a combat diver, Navy diver type thing. I was medically discharged from the military, and I am currently traveling from Norfolk, Virginia to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville because of the care we have is absolutely unacceptable. The priority that we get, unacceptable. The actual level of care we get, unacceptable. Waiting lines 2 and 3, 4 months, and it's getting to the point where people don't realize we're losing 22 veterans a day is suicide. And it has everything to do with what they have dealt with, but also just as much as what they are not being helped to deal with. And it reminds me of the stories that my grandfather told me of coming back from Vietnam and not being welcoming back, to being that you are a national asset, using Lincoln's term, that you're the national asset.
I mentioned a long time ago, and thank you for your service, Joey, and some have picked up on it, but I don't know that they've done it, that there needs to be a voucher system. Landmark Legal Foundation for years litigated for a voucher system for poor kids, particularly minority kids in minority neighborhoods, to be able to go to area schools that may not be the ones down their street.